Good morning, everybody. And today is the concluding session of Isha Upanishad. But as I have seen that I have been studying this for the last 15 years, and even now, when I was going through it again before this, there were new insights that came up. So there can never be any concluding session because these texts were so designed that layers and layers of meanings are kind of revealed to us, also as we grow. And for that, I thank you for being my co farers on this journey, on this path. Because of that, you know, um, I, I could reach further insights into the text. So far, we have covered the three movements, and today is the fourth and the final movement. Four is also a number of perfect manifestation in the Indian tradition. It's a perfect square. And so the fourth movement is an exemplification of the third verse. And the third verse, which said that the worlds are sunless and enveloped in blind gloom, where those who are slayers of their soul, they pass. So this is a very seemingly innocent, verse, but again there are layers and layers of meaning, which is exemplified in what we will undertake today, the last four verses. And the first of that says that Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Apihitam Mukham Tatvam Pushan Apavrinu Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye. So, yesterday we saw the Vidya and Avidya were resolved, birth and non birth were resolved, and how both Vidya and Avidya and birth and non birth are necessary for the attaining of immortality. Yesterday was how immortality can be achieved. And today there is a discussion of truth. So Hiran Mayana Patran is golden lid. Satyasya Mukham, the face of truth, is apihitam, is covered with a golden lid. Tattvam, that, O Pushan, you remove. That lid that is covering the truth, O Pushan, please remove so that Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye, for the reason of the understanding of the law of truth and for the true sight, O Pushan, please remove that lid which is covering that the truth. Now, this is from the point of view of the human existence and where it is today. So, yeah, we discussed that how we have these 7 stages, which in the Brahman, Matarishwan established the waters, the 7 waters we discussed in the second session. That what is Matarishwan is the life principle. The life principle in the Samam Brahman. Brahman is featureless, we saw. It does not have forms. But life, Matarishwan, it establishes Apaha, the waters. And waters in the Vedas is rivers or the streams of consciousness. And what we call the world today, from the lowest to the highest, is this 7. It starts from Sat, Chit, and Ananda, which is considered the higher world, and matter, body, life, and mind are considered the lower world. The triple world of ignorance is this, where we are today. And this supermind is the Vijnanamaya consciousness, which is the truth consciousness. So this truth consciousness is from this stage, fourth onwards, is hidden from us. And there is a golden lid here, which separates the supermind onward to this. To explain this, and this is the process of creation. From Sat is substance. the most subtlest substance, which takes on grosser and grosser forms and becomes matter here. This is called the process of involution or process of creation. That the supreme being that was free and immutable and formless and one, we studied about Brahman, went abroad, became all of this and the world. So, this is the movement of creation or the movement of involution. And the mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram used to tell this to the children in a very beautiful story. She would say that there were these four large beings who were one, and their names were Sat or life, Chit or light, and bliss or Ananda, and truth or supermind. They were these large beings who went out and became divided into four. At the highest level, they are one, and they became four. And when they became divided, they became the opposites of themselves. So, Sat, which is life, became matter, body, which is death. Chit, which is consciousness or light, became ignorance in the lower planes or darkness. Ananda, which is delight and felicity, became suffering. And truth or this became falsehood. And this is the process of involution or creation. And then all these four beings did not know what to do because they'd become opposite of themselves, and they cried out for help. And that is when Aditi, the divine mother, sent forth from herself a portion of herself and her love into the lowest matter, which became Agni, or the divine will, or the love of the divine mother, which is always moving up, is always progressing. So it is that Agni, and we will come to it today. So this was the story, she would say, of how there was an involution. Sat, spirit, becomes matter, body, and then how this transcendental love, which is Agni, the first avatar, comes down, and then the process of evolution starts. And this force of truth, this face of truth, is hidden with a golden lid. But the good news is that on 29th of February 1956, in Sri Aurobindo Ashram, there was a supramental manifestation. And the mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, this is the painting here, she says that she had this vision that with a golden hammer, she broke this golden door which was there and ushered in this whole golden light. And that is this Mahat consciousness, the Vijnanamaya consciousness, or the super mind that we call supramental consciousness. But when this Veda was written, and we'll come back to this again. So when this Upanishad was written, it was still the face of truth is covered with a golden lid, and there was a prayer to Pushan. So who is Pushan? Pushan is also the sun. But in Sanskrit, the name given to something is not static, it is very dynamic. Like water has 70 names, because it is not just telling you that this is water. The name is given also on what that water can do. So if then water can give life, it is also called Amritam. If that water quenches your thirst, it is called Pay. If that water helps the plants to grow, it is called something. So the names are not just a nominative representation. Like in English, this table is a table. It could have been called a chair, it doesn't matter. But in Sanskrit, any name is given by the function or what it does. There is a meaning behind the name. So similarly, the sun has many names. And the next stanza, the next verse talks about it, where Pushan is appealed, please come so that you can remove this lid which is covering the golden truth from us, the real light which is hidden from us. So the next verse says that, O Pushan, you are the only seer. You are Yama. O Yama, O Surya, O Prajapati. So Pusha Nekarshe Yama Surya, Prajapatya Vyuha Rashmin Samuha. So the Rishi is calling out to Pushan, to Yama, to Surya, to Prajapati that please, Rashmin Vyuha, please marshal your rays and please Tejaha Samuha, please draw together your light. And we'll come to the meaning of what it means. Yatte Rupam Kalyanatamam Tatte Pashyami, because let me, your most Kalyana Rupam, which means your most blessed form, let me see, okay, which is thy most blessed form. Yaha Yosavasau Purushaha Soham Asmi. Because that highest Purusha, which is there and everywhere, that Purusha is me. Okay. So what this verse means is that this face of truth, which is covered with a golden lid, is has to be uncovered within us, and it is the most blessed form. And when we see this truth everywhere, we will know that whatever is there and there, the same thing is me. And we have seen this in the earlier verses. So here there is an appeal to the sun, and the next stanza talks about Vayuhu anilam amritam athedam bhasmantam shariram om krato smara kritam smara krato smara kritam smara. So this verse is saying that the breath of things, which means the life principle, is immortal, but the body in which it represents in the end is ashes, is bhasma, the body. Therefore, O will, remember what was done. So krato is the will. O will, remember what was done, remember. And in the final, there is an prayer to Agni that, O God Agni, please take us on the right path, Supatha, so that we experience or enjoy the spiritual riches. Okay, and Asman, please take us, Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan, because you know everything that is manifested here. So you can take us not through the crooked path, but through the straight path. Yuyodhi Asmat Juhuranam Ano, Bhuishtham Te Namauktim Vidhema. So please remove from us the attraction. Juhuranam is attraction to Anaha, which is the sin, Enaha. And to the best, you are the best, Bhuishtham, to you, we, Namauktim Vidhema, we offer our highest speech. Okay. Now, as I said, if you just go through these translations, it does not make any sense because the Upanishads were vehicles of illumination. They were not a linear explanation of rationality. So the Rishi, it's like, you're climbing a mountain and you have a swing and you're just jumping from here to there to there. But there are in between stairs and steps, which the Rishi does not feel that it is necessary to explain because at that time everybody already knew those frameworks and paradigms, and so it was enough. And the same is true for poetry, right? The poet does not. That's how poetry is different from prose. In poetry, there are these flashes of illumination, and as the reader, we have to grow into the consciousness of the poet to be able to connect the dots. And that is why these texts are considered difficult. And that is why the Western scholars who have explained these have made a mess of it because they have taken it very literally. And that is where Shankara's and Sri Aurobindo's explanation throws light on those areas which are not openly visible. So this was the direct translation, what we did now. And now to explain this, we will go back to this. So, what is this last movement trying to tell us? So, the last movement is trying to talk to us about what are the conditions of immortality. Because in the previous movement, we found that it is how by multiplicity we can cross beyond death, and by knowledge we can enjoy immortality, and or how through non-birth or the dissolution of the ego we cross beyond death, and in birth we enjoy immortality. So this verse is talking to us about the importance of life. Okay, these last four verses, and therefore they exemplify the third verse, which is saying that those who are the slayers of their souls. Now, can the soul be ever be slayed? The soul is forever, you know, um, living. It cannot be slayed. So Atmahano Janaha. So what is the import of this? Who slays their souls? So there are two ways by which we can slay our souls, and we discussed it yesterday. The two movements which were both incomplete. When we live in Vidya alone, or when we live in Avidya alone. When we live in non-birth alone, or when we live in birth alone. So in simple language, what it means is, how do we slay our souls in two ways? Either we are lost in this multiplicity, or we lead a very materialistic life without knowing what is the purpose behind it, and therefore we don't find meaning in it. We neither try to find meaning in it and lead a meaningless life, or you have seen these days many people say that, I want to die at 60. What is there to live after that? I don't want to grow old and die. So wishing to die early is also slaying of your soul. It is important to prolong our lives, okay, because only in life evolution is possible. So maintaining our mind, life and body in a way that we can have a long life, not because we are attached to life or we are scared of death, but because we have this knowledge that it is only here that we can grow in life. So one of the ways of slaying our soul is to be forgetful of our true purpose and to lead a life of materialism and then just die one day. The other way to kill our souls is to aspire to attain renunciation, or not renunciation, to attain liberation or nirvana for oneself alone, and then not come back to this world to help others. So even attachment to liberation is like slaying of your soul, because you are not participating in this beautiful creation and fulfilling its purpose that the divine wished for it, but you're looking for an easy way out. It is like we discussed yesterday, deciding not to play the game of cricket because you can't take defeat. So you decide to quit, you know, and that is liberation. You don't want to play the game, or you're playing the game with so much of passion, without and so much of suffering and success and victory possessed by that in the movement of life, without knowing that this is just a game. So in both the cases we are not living 100 years, okay, because in the first case we are tired of this suffering, we want to go early. In the second case, we have found our felicity, our individual liberation, and we don't want to be a part of this world anymore. So for both, when they go from here, these are the third movement said that they go into darkness who follow after ignorance, but into greater darkness who devote themselves to knowledge alone. Because if you are only going for liberation, you do not participate. You are in a world where there is no form, there is no manifestation, there's nothing, and it is a greater darkness. So the last movement is saying that there is a truth. It is today not reachable to us. It is invoking Surya that please show us that truth so that we can grow into that. And Surya and Agni are the two godheads who help in this search for immortality. Surya stands for the divine truth, the sun, the illumination, and Agni is stands for the divine will, that will to grow, to progress. Uh, and therefore, it is the whole of Rig Veda starts from Om Agni Mile Purohitam Yagyasya. It starts with Agni. And this Isha Upanishad ends with invocation to Agni. So, Agni is that divine principle in us, which is the basis of all action. And how it is different, and it is different from our ego. So I had shown you this scheme, which is our, as per the Indian tradition, this is our true psychology, our true being, as per Indian psychology. So this is the ego self, whereas this is our false I, the false self, which is subject to change, mutation, death. It is temporal, it is temporary, and so on. But Agni is this principle in us, the soul principle in us, the Agni, which is the true I. It is in the Vedas, it is considered to be the son of Rudra. Agni is the son of Rudra, and Rudra is the Vedic name of Shiva. And this is how Vishnu and Shiva are understood in the Vedas. One represents consciousness, or and one represents transformation from below. So Shiva is considered the Lord of transformation, which means that Vishnu represents the consciousness, which is going up and attaining that, but coming down and transforming and being in matter and staying here. That is why Shiva stays on Kailash, whereas Vishnu lives in Vaikunt. Vaikunt has some other worlds, whereas Shiva stays on the earth, on Kailash. Because participating in manifestation and transforming it was the crying need and the search of both the Vedic rishis and the Upanishadic rishis. So Surya is this Vijnanamaya Purusha, this Vijnanamaya supermind. So the two godheads who are invoked here is the supermind, the truth, and the Agni, which is so this is from above, it illuminates, and Agni is from below, that rises up slowly. So Agni is considered this immortal in mortals. It is considered as the leader of our journey. It is the self in us, which is not the desire and the ego self. There is a true self in us, and it is diminished by desire and ego, the Agni, and it is increased with purified understanding and will. And this purified understanding and will is what is represented through the ghee that is poured on the sacrifice. We discussed it the other day. So when we pour the ghee of our purified will and understanding, we increase this Agni. And the purification of understanding comes through the illumination of the sun. So the sun is therefore it Vyuha Rashmin Teja Samuha. It marshals the rays, and it also brings them together. Now, what does it mean? Now, anything. Our mind is very limited. We only understand through analysis. But the true knowledge comes from synthesis, when you can see everything together. So here, the Rishi is telling the Lord Surya that show me the truth, so that everything I can see together, because my mind is only capable of seeing one thing at a time. Like even when we study this Upanishad, we have to first understand what is Vidya, what is Avidya. And when you dwell on it, then there is a understanding that comes to us, which is, and then again we go step by step. So the Lord Surya is that truth, which is that the full truth, which is revealed to us slowly. And that is why he is called Pushan, because Pushan is the increaser, the fosterer. So that aspect of the sun, which is involved in matter. It is said that what is not involved cannot be evolved. So if we have to evolve into that truth that is already involved in matter, so the evolved truth which we see outside is the sun, but the involved truth in matter is this Agni, which Pushan helps us to grow slowly. And that is why this the ninth reconciliation is happening in these last four verses. That is the reconciliation of Agni and sun, which is knowledge and will, or action and knowledge. If you see in the world, generally men of action are not men of knowledge, you know, and men of knowledge are not men of action. Men of knowledge would like to sit and think and do, whereas men of action are not thinking generally. So in the lower hemispheres, action and knowledge are separated, whereas in the higher plane, knowledge and action are one. Because without action, knowledge is lame, and without knowledge, action is blind. So when the this shloka says that Om Krato Smara Kritam Smara Krato Smara Kritam Smara, it is trying to invoke the will. Kratu is the mental will. Okay. And mental will is always divided, because we do not know what is the truth. We do not know what will happen tomorrow. We do not know how everything is related. So in our little minds, we try to decide and move forward. But there is a larger divine will with W capital that is laying down the larger scheme of things. There is a divine will that is the in the world is unfolding as per that. So Agni is invoked to help our individual will to be aligned to that divine will, because Agni is the leader of our paths. It is that faculty of consciousness within us which is a part of the transcendental Mother Aditi. It already knows the truth, it already knows the path, and that is why it is said, take us Naya Supatha Rai. Supatha is by the right path, not by the crooked path. Why? Because Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan. Because Agni is the knower of, it is called the Jata Veda in the Vedas. Agni is the Jata Vedas. It is the knower of everything that is manifested. And therefore it can lead us to the right path. It is like that GPS system, when you're going on a trek, that knows if you've put in the last goal where you want to go, it takes you through the shortest route which is not having traffic and so on. So Agni is that, because it knows the entire landscape. It is a part of everything, and it can take us to the right path. So all of these are actually very living. So what is Agni? Agni is that true self within us. We all have experienced that there is a, and it is more as a feeling. Agni, it comes to our active consciousness as a feeling of what is right. Even the biggest criminal, has there is a moment before he commits that crime. There is this thing that comes with a, that what is right there is, but our desire or our attachments or our ego, they cover it, and they don't let it lead us. But Agni is that godhead that and it is the second boon of Nachiketa. This Agni was also given the name Nachiketa in the Kathopanishad, because it is um, it is that priest. It is the priest of our yagya. It is the immortal within mortals. It is the leader of our journey. So uh, when we replace our ego, which is our false self, with this Agni, which is our true self, then That is the beginning of our spiritual journey. And after that, it is a straight path, Supatha, to the supreme felicity. And the Rishi is telling Agni that Yuyodhi asma juhuranam anoho. Please remove from us this attraction to sin. Now, sin is a very different concept in Indian tradition than it is in Christianity. In Indian tradition, sin is an action which is done without the knowledge of the wholeness, of all, of totality. So anything we do in our ignorance, which is not in line with the whole thing, is a sin. Now, what can we do therefore? It's like we are sinning all the time, right? Because we, till we reach that all, how do we know what to do? And therefore, it is this surrender that comes in. And the surrender is a very, very important aspect of Indian, of this Vedantic and this Indian way. One is meditation, we discussed yesterday through Jnana Yoga, but Bhakti is another aspect where you submit, and before every action, you offer it to the highest you can conceive of, that this is what I'm going to do as per the best I know today. And therefore, please, help me see the truth. And it is the intent. And that is why Nama Uktim Vidhema. Why it is said that I submit my speech to you. Why it doesn't say my actions to you. And there is a lot of deep meaning in this. You might be, in the Vedas it is said that the gods do not see us, they hear us. And if you have gone to this Tirupati, Balaji, the statue of Balaji is with closed eyes. So Balaji is standing there with eyes closed. This further is a is a contribution to that thinking that the God does not see us. So what does it mean? Seeing means you are looking at the action and you are judging. But the divine is not interested in our action. He's interested more in our intent, how we do it. Like Krishna says in the Gita that past, present, and future are all in me, all the three kalas. So I'm not looking for the results, but I'm looking for um, the intent or the motivation with which you do your work. And that is what the gods hear. And there is a very beautiful story in Buddhism that how there was this monk who lived in a forest, and next to him lived this nautch girl, a dancing girl, or a woman of the world, as it's called. And whole day he would sit there and count how many people have come there, and he would put a stone and to tell himself that how many times she has sinned. But from the point of view of the Nautch girl, her intent was that she was soothing people who were stressed or anxious or tired and so on. But one day when the monk met her and said that what you're doing is sin, she said, "Oh, I did not know it," and then she just, fell and died. And after a few years, when the monk also died, and he went to whatever Swarga or there, a paradise, he was denied entry into that paradise. But he saw beyond the gate that this girl was there, this dancing girl, and he couldn't understand why. And when he asked, he was told that the intent of her action, though she was in that profession, was very different. And whereas you, being a monk, your intent was different. So it is not the outer action that is important, but the intent with which it is done. And that is why the Rishi is telling Agni that, oh, greatest one, oh, Bhuishtham, to you I offer a Nama Uktim. my highest, my completest speech of submission. And why speech of submission? Because till we know of the all and we act through our partial ignorance, um, we will be not going through the straight path. We will be somewhat, it is not supatha. And so, but this action of offering, and surrendering invokes the Agni, because it is in humility and gratitude are the two conditions in which spiritual growth happens. Humility, which means that I do not know, and therefore you invoke Surya, that the divine knowledge, oh divine knowledge, come to me because I do not know, and it is that humility. And the surrender, the surrender uh, that I, again, I do not know. And so Agni and Surya are the two godheads that help us in this path. There is another very interesting idea in the 17th verse, that why remember is highlighted here. Kratos smara, kritam smara, kratos smara, kritam smara, 4 times memory. Because remembering who we are and remembering constantly strengthens our will, and that mental will, and then when it is surrendered, it becomes the divine will. And it is a psychological fact. So this 17th verse is also telling us about the possibility of rebirth, because it says that life is immortal and body is the end. So body is not who we are, and this life carries on from one birth to another. It is a psychological fact that the aspiration that we have in the last second of our life when we die actually is responsible for where we will be born in our next birth. So, and there is a possibility of, in a flash of a second, to um, integrate or aggregate all the experiences that one has had in this life, and then aspire for where one would like to be born in the next birth. And it is in that last minute, last second aspiration. And that aspiration, that memory cannot come if the whole life has been lived in forgetfulness. So the the rishi is here saying that Om Kratu. Kratu is the mental will, mental will. So, oh, mental will, remember. Mental will, remember. Mental will, remember. So it is asking us to strengthen our will, our mental will. It cannot in the last aspire for the highest if throughout its life it hasn't been aspiring for the highest. If the whole life has been, running after things or material, stuff and all of that, then that is where the consciousness will be in the end. Whereas if at every moment, the mental will is trained to remember why one is here, what one has done, what needs to be done, why is one here, what needs to be done, then one is always, because we do not know which is going to be our last second on this earth. So constantly, if we remember the purpose of our life and we are in a state of constant remembrance or aspiration, then no matter when is our last birth, we are in that aspiration, and that is how we determine our next birth. So this is the importance of the 17th verse. So in this fourth movement, what is given most importance is the importance of life. How it is neither shortening of life, that is the solution to this suffering, nor a rejection of this life through liberation, that is the purpose of our existence. It is fulfillment of this life. That is why in the Vedic tradition, mukti is not the end, it is bhukti, enjoyment. And that is why we had here tena tyaktena bhunjitha. It is saying that please enjoy, but after renunciation. As I said yesterday, this is where our departure happened a few hundred years ago, 1,000 years ago, where life was not given importance. Otherworldliness, being in another state of consciousness, was given more importance after life. And that is why India lost in its material abundance and expression and manifestation, which was not the case before. Can you imagine when these Upanishads and all were being written in India? We had gladiators and all these people in the West. This was how advanced we were. This thought is even today, it is the highest thought that the world, and it is not about escaping from life. So the takeaway of the Upanishad is, it is in life alone that immortality can be achieved by our consciousness, because outside of this life, the soul is anyway immortal. But for the soul to manifest beauty and harmony and knowledge and all that the divine wants to manifest, life is important. But a life that is an expression of knowledge through multiplicity, a life that is expression of non-egoistic living, and a life which is a pursuit of this highest knowledge through Surya, which can be expressed through Agni, the will, so that a kingdom of heaven on earth can be established, because this whole creation is by the Lord so that he can inhabit it. And he can inhabit it only when all of us who are today living a life of anisha, of non Isha, we are living a life of personal aggrandizement. If we grow from our individual self to our cosmic self and a universal self, and become the Lord of our beings rather than being the slaves, that is the purpose of life. And Isha is reconciling all those opposites which are very difficult to reconcile, and showing us that how it is possible to live in this world by enjoying everything, but on the condition of inward renunciation, because one has grown into the consciousness to see equality in everything, to see oneness in everything. There's nothing outside which is not oneself. There is nothing which is pain or suffering or this or that. It is just a limited worldview and a limited experience which causes us that. So, growing to Isha, growing into the consciousness of the Lord, because the first stanza says this: there is no other purpose of this world. It is to live. It is that the world has to be clothed with the Lord. Ishavasya midam sarvam. All this has to be inhabited or worn by the Lord as a garment. And we are the instruments right now. Nature has the highest instruments, the mental beings. Till today, the nature as evolution was instinctive. It was very slow, because from the matter to life, from life to animals, they are driven by instinct. But manah, for manav, the man, is in possession of this mind that is capable of self-awareness, that is capable of, for the first time, an animal does not understand there is a supramental truth out there to be realized. It is just, it follows its instinct and lives. For the first time, man has this faculty of consciousness, the mind, which begins to seek the purpose of life, that why are we here? And therefore, evolution can be accelerated. Man can now participate in this evolution which nature has been doing for millions of years. And if it does not participate, which is the purpose of this life, then that life is wasted. Those souls go into gloom and darkness, because you are not a part of where this whole thing is headed. That is, in a sense, the Isha Upanishad, and it is the essence of Indian spirituality. Here a gospel of how a divine life on earth can be established is discussed, and also a statement of conditions are given under which this divine life is possible. And once this divine life is possible, what will be the spirit of its living? That one lives for loka sangraha, as Gita says. One lives for others because that other is yourself, but in your larger universal consciousness. One does not have any personal motive, but that is not the end of action, because true action begins only when one does not have personal motive and one becomes an instrument in the hands of that larger consciousness, so that the purpose of this involution and evolution, the purpose of why this whole thing was formed, can be taken to its next step. Today, I would like to have a little longer question answer sessions. So I'll pause here, and I would request if all of you can switch on your videos and we can quickly have a short introduction as well. So we have about 10 minutes, and maybe Nilotpal, if you can tell us about yourself in 30 to 40 seconds and your takeaway from these sessions. Nilotpal?
Hello,
Yes.
hello, Gitanjali madam.
Yes, please.
Yeah, actually, you have mentioned I am Pankaj Patel, and I am physics graduate and electronics engineers. So currently, I just gone through the one of the sessions of System View of Life by Fitz Capra. So the Fitz Capra has written the book Tao of Physics, and which relates the Eastern mysticisms and the quantum physics. And he is currently conducting the course that how the mechanistic view of the world has damaged to our world, because we are see the narrow view of everything, not the whole aspect of the things, because our problems of the current world, ecology, economic crisis, environment change, climate change, and the poverty, see, these all problems are related to each others. So we need to address the universal theory and address the whole aspect to the truth. So as you mentioned, that truth is the means to seeing as whole things, not as a just like the bias by the some lust, greed, and hypocrisy. So if you see your inner truth, you can see the what's the false hood in the others. If you see your inner falsehood, you can see the falsehood of the world. Because right now, as you said, the truth is covers with the Hiranya Garbha Patra, and we need to courage to see the truth in order to solve the problem. So what's your thinking that what the Fizzo mentions in the system view of life, that we none of the problems can be solved in the isolations. We need the theory of wholeness, I mean theory of from the broadest perspectives, which address the economic, because our business and industrial models is driven by the capitalism, and capitalism is driven by the selfishness, because you are the first in the capitalisms, not the others, while in socialisms you are the others are the first. So how you address that we can bring we can, for each actions we decided is driven by the truth, not by the demonic traits. Yeah, I mean.
So, as I said, that these greater truths we had lost. India had lost to itself and also to the whole world. And that was when in the West there was a renaissance. This whole, Newton and others seeking for truth. And whatever truth, so that is why these Indic knowledge systems are important to know, because our actions are governed by our frameworks, what framework we believe in. So when Newton posited this whole mechanistic view of life, where we saw that that translated into like even viewing of human body as a mechanical system and so on, and even our society. So Fritz of Capra's other book is The Turning Point, where he writes about how social systems get affected by our view of the world. Whereas with this whole quantum understanding of energy, that everything is energy and therefore everything is interrelated, now we are looking at everything in that systemic point of view. But beyond Einstein and also beyond what physics is today, we still do not know about black holes and about ether and about a lot of things. Because of which, again, our understanding is partial. So, definitely, all these people like Newton and Einstein um, and the modern scientists, as well as our old sages and rishis, uh, they have looked for this truth, and and knowledge is so that is why Surya is invoked, because knowledge grows step by step. That is why Pushan is called the increaser. So when in 18th century, when we learned about in 19th century about Newton, it was a revelation, right? And so much of innovation happened after that. But then it was found to be a subset, one of the conditions of of quantum physics. And then our worldview grew. So definitely Fritz of Capra and others have contributed to the knowing in this cycle. But there is yet more to know. My friend and a good well-wisher, Subhash Kakji, has recently written a paper that how this world is not three-dimensional, but it is e-dimensional, the exponential e. And that is why it is 2 point, the value of e is 2.7 something something. It is an infinite number. And that is why space curves, which Einstein also tried to say, that why space curves. So he has this insight that it is e-dimensional, not three-dimensional as we think. That is why there are no corners, edges in this world. If you see in nature, there are always curves. So that is a new understanding of it. Now, this is a bottom-up understanding. The science goes from here to here to here, and that is why every theory comes and enlarges the previous theory. But this knowledge that we have of the Vedanta is a top down knowledge. So it is, even Einstein's E is equal to mc square was not bottom up, it was a flash of intuition, and it took him 20 years to prove it. Only after that, for this, so he got his Nobel Prize for theory of relativity, not for this one, because he could not prove it. It was an insight. Ramanujan could not prove his theorems, it just came to him, this infinite series, right? But the mind today, the world, we understand only when we prove things, because we are
Yeah.
in the scientific age. So these texts therefore become important, because where science has not reached today, it gives us a worldview and we can leapfrog that evolution. And it gives us a worldview not which is bottom up but top down. So
And
Indian
second,
knowledge systems are downloadable. They have already been
yeah.
experienced, and to test the validity, you have to only experience it in your life. You don't have to do an external experiment.
Yeah. And today in learning systems, we are more focused on the informative things, because we are just the student are the means of collection the informations, which computer can also do.
Yeah,
But
but
it
more
is
and
not.
more we are moving towards an Himalayan Institute of Alternatives, which I am currently co-founding and I'm leading, is looking for experiential education. So education is moving from just information to growth of consciousness through experience. So we are moving towards it, and I think this is what India can contribute to the world. This today the world research or anything research methodologies, they are all bottom up, and they are not personal inquiry, they are not first person inquiry, they are all third person inquiry through data. But India always stood for first person inquiry. Like, I cannot challenge Yajnavalkya. What he writes in this Isha Upanishad is his experience. But it is not false because it is first person inquiry, right? Because he's inviting you that you also can do a first person inquiry and experience the same thing. It is just that I can't explain it to you through the mind. I cannot convince you through the mind because it is discussing those realms where mind has not been able to reach as of now. So it is an invitation to experience it. And that is where India has to also lead the world and research in first person inquiry.
So my name is Rohit. My experience is into entertainment and sports industry. From last 3 4 years, I'm learning into sustainability, and I do voluntary work in the culture. So I volunteer with Sadhguru, I volunteer with ISKCON, wherever I get the service. What this course did is connected a lot of dots for me, which were very ambiguous, and believe me, which gave me a lot of clarity on many things. And I'm looking forward to first Jan and all your sessions going forward. And whatever way I can serve you in any way, in very humble, small, tiny way that I can do, I'll be very happy to help you in whatever way I can. Thank you very much once again.
Yeah, thank you. So on 11th and 12th, we are doing Mandukya Upanishad. It is even smaller than Isha. It has only 12 verses, and it explains to us what is the meaning of Om. Why Om is such an important syllable. So we will take that up on 11th and 12th of December. And I think Sneha will share with you the registration details. And we were thinking that over the next 10 months, we could do one Upanishad each every month. Because these 10 Upanishads overall give a very nice. So Vedanta is one of the knowledge systems in India. So it is approach to Brahman in a particular way. Yes, very happy to. I think it is not about the number. It is about, and if we can have a journey together, it would be nice.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
Ma'am, my name is Nilotpal, and currently I am writing the civil services examination. And my takeaway from this course was that it provided me an opening to understand the philosophy of India. And it's just an starting point, and I would like to explore more. And your guidance was really helpful in understanding a lot of things that I think are really important.
Thank you.
Can I go, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So name Ujjwal, and I've been working in the education space for the past 14 years now. I started with the corporate sector, but again there were certain questions, particularly about something to do more with existential question of whether I'm doing the right thing. Is that something that I feel really meaningful in life? So that drove me to kind of volunteer initially, and then I have been working in kind of to improve the standards of public schooling in the country. And it's been 14 years worked with multiple organizations. And I feel that the idea of aim of education essentially rests on the idea of what kind of society do we really need to create as such, and everything else actually flows from there. So now coming to this particular session, ma'am, so I would say that it was the first time that I have had a chance of engaging on Upanishad, and I felt the way you kind of uh, kind of expanded upon the ideas which were pretty abstract as such. It really kind of has left a lot of food for I would say thought and reflection, and something that I would say in a way I have tried to engage through readings of J. Krishnamurti, a little bit of readings on Ramana Maharshi, and also Bhagavad Gita, Swami Vivekananda's literature. So all these things have been personal efforts at own individual level based on what I've read, what I've got reference from, but not had a chance to engage with any expert per se and listening to somebody. And so that kind of an opportunity I have not had. So it was wonderful to get a chance to, and in fact I'll be looking forward to reading that Isha Upanishad's voluminous kind of explanation by Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo as well.
I will share that PDF with you. And a small correction, I'm not an expert. I'm also a student. The day I, achieve this cosmic consciousness, maybe I'll be an expert. As of now, I'm also a student like you.
Yeah. And one of the questions, ma'am, which basically occurs to me, as you mentioned, that we have lost our knowledge systems largely. And whereas, and you mentioned that all these things, given the highly abstract nature of theirs, can only be transacted by somebody who is either wanting to be in that state of consciousness or has evolved to that level. And there, if you look at the situation in our own country, we are struggling to realize quality education, basic literacy, numeracy itself is a tall order. And we are talking about lakhs and lakhs of teachers as such. So somewhere I feel the whole value of this kind of a knowledge, at the same time our basic struggle to even attain something as, I would say, fundamental and foundational as basic literacy, numeracy. So how do we navigate these two different worlds? And so there's a lot of work to be done, and whatever I can contribute in any form, that will be my kind of humble contribution. So
Yeah.
thanks, over to others to express.
So when we embark on this self-knowledge path, no, which is the true thing, we can easily understand numeracy literacy. So the
Yeah,
reason we are lost is that we are following the Western framework. They are true to themselves.
true.
Their self-knowledge is through matter, and they're doing a great job of it, be it science or be it anything. Now we are lagging behind because we are copying them, and we are not, situated in our knowledge, self-knowledge, our knowledge system. And our knowledge system, the foundation is spirituality. Spirituality is not something abstract, it is as alive and so maybe and this is from experience when I have dealt with students and my own son, that if you put them on the path of self discovery, then all this avidya, math, science, physics comes very easily. But in India we are not following our swadharma because there's a lot of parental pressure, a lot of societal pressure.
Yeah.
We want to become somebody else. We are not very courageous to be ourselves. And this courage comes from this whole understanding of who I am. And when you are on, and it can start from kindergarten. It need not wait till one grows. It can even start in the mother's womb, prenatal.
Can I say?
Yes, Priyanka.
Yeah. Good morning. So
Morning.
I am Dr. Priyanka, and I'm an anatomist, and I live in Gurgaon. I've been practicing, anatomy and studying the human body dissected. And the spiritual journey, my spiritual journey has been for the last 18, 20 years. And it has given me such insights. It has made me realize that, my medical journey, where it ends, spiritual journey is just an extension. So it keeps me, gives me this feeling of a student. There's so much to learn, so much to know. And I so truly connected with you. I would say more with you through these sessions. It was very enriching the way you conducted these sessions and took us through this beautiful journey. Isha Upanishad. This has been my first, learning of an Upanishad through you, and it was. I don't have words for it, but I'm so glad that this journey is not ending here. And you've just now said that we're going to do the other Upanishads, and I feel so grateful. Thank you for that. And you did mention about also doing the Gita. I have this hunger in me to learn Gita more and more. I've been doing it with Aurobindo Ashram, Prashantji, and there are other sources. We as doctors, we have come together and we study Gita. So we have a Gita class, which we do on our own. And I want more learning because there's so much to understand. And every time when I read those verses, there's a certain understanding that builds upon whatever I have understood. So if you could also do the Gita, as you had said, you want to start. And I think I remember that you said you're going to start it in January. So please do that. And thank you so much for introducing me to the Upanishads and continuing this journey. I'm so truly grateful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yes, we are planning to start on the 10th of January, Gita. And also Monday to Friday, we'll do Gita, maybe in the evening, 6:30 to 7, half an hour every day. And weekends, we can do the Upanishads because they enrich each other's the understanding.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Priyanka. Preeti, Miss Preeti.
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Morning.
So I'm Preeti, yeah, and I have my own small business of candle making, and so very grateful for this wonderful 4 day session. I missed the first day, and so Sneha, if you can give me the recording, it would be wonderful. And thank you so much. And ma'am, I just want to ask one thing, like in the way you said yesterday, you said that about Ramana Maharshi, that he was, whatever little I understood, so like he was concerned about his own enlightenment, about his own this thing. But whatever little I've read about him, he was also like he would help others also to be on the path and achieve whatever he had achieved or was on the path of achieving. I'm like just wanted to ask about this thing.
Yes. So, even a philanthropist, let us say, a person who amasses a lot of wealth and also gives, is also doing a lot of service, right? And the highest service you can do is when you are seeking your own enlightenment. Okay, because once you have achieved something, or you make it easy for others to do. But we are taking it to another level, which the Vedas and Upanishads were about, and which Aurobindo has now reclaimed. So there is a yoga of ascent and yoga of descent. Okay. So the yoga of ascent is from this consciousness, we go to this cosmic or Atman or this thing, and we are released from there. So, which is a great thing, which is, but the supramental yoga or the Vedic yoga was of yoga of transformation, which is you not only rise to that level and decide to leave the body, because that is also a realization, but you decide to bring that consciousness on earth and be a living center of that consciousness that you radiate, and you also transform your mind, life, and body. So this yoga of transformation was only there in the Vedic times and the Upanishadic times, but then somehow we lost it, and it was recovered by Sri Aurobindo. Like there was a disciple of Sri Aurobindo who asked, so helping is one thing, which even the Buddha, for instance, had a lot of sessions, and you share with others. But it is this is a next level itself, where in this very body you will be immortal. That is what Sri Aurobindo has said, that this very body will change. So what he says is, like from animal we evolved into man. So animals are guided by instinct of feelings, and they have very rudimentary mind. When from that consciousness we got the mental consciousness, instead of all fours we became a straight, so that we have 360-degree view, we can turn our heads. Animals always have, they look in one direction, because they are instinctive. So the form change, the body change, right? But mind is, man is not the final product of nature, because then there would not have been so many problems we are facing in this world. So we have a next stage of evolution. Okay, and it'll be easier if I share this diagram. So we live in this ego ridden state, and it is of suffering. So we have many paths to liberation. Okay, we can go to this Atman here. This is the universal state, cosmic state. And then from this Atman, so Buddha from this Atman state reached the unmanifest. So this is the Purushottama who has manifested the world, but there is a large part of it which is unmanifest, which is like shunyata, nihilism. So therefore, Buddha says that the supreme truth is Shunyata. Similarly, Ramana Maharshi, he reached this Satchidananda. Okay, it is Samam Brahman. So he says it is the truth is that that oneness, that Samam. There is nothing that exists there in the truth. Now, while accepting is that one of the ways of liberating oneself from this state of suffering. What the Vedas and Upanishads worldview was, and what Aurobindo has reclaimed and taken it forward, is that by achieving this, through achieving this, you will have a choice when you are at this stage. Either you go into the unmanifest or this higher states of consciousness, and you decide not to participate in evolution, or you can, through your Agni, this is your psychic entity behind your heart, your true heart is the Agni. This is above the mind. Okay, so you decide to shift from this egoistic personality to this true personality and stay in this manifestation as a Jivan Mukta or as a Bodhisattva. You stay in this manifestation and you aid in this evolution, but as a liberated being, not for your personal self, but for others. And that is and when you do that, then you become immortal in the body, but not this body which is of flesh and bone. It will become a body of light. In his book Supramental Manifestation on Earth, Sri Aurobindo has written about this body. It looks like a fairy tale right now, but it would be a similar fairy tale if somebody told a monkey or a chimpanzee that there would be a set of beings who would come, who would go to the moon, and monkey would look at the moon and wonder, how on earth can somebody go there? How can somebody jump so high and go to that moon? So it would be a fairy tale if somebody told that monkey. So today when we hear this, it's like a fairy tale that there'll be a body of light and a supramental being. But why a body of light? Because mother says that we die because we haven't learned how to live. She says dying is a bad habit that we have learned because we don't know how to live, because we live in ignorance and we are divided in will and knowledge. So there is a way, but when we reach that unification of will and knowledge, it is such a blissful state that we want to escape from this world in non-birth, or in through Vidya. We want to go to those higher stages and be there. And that is a possibility. And even they, Buddha and Ramana Maharshi, from there, they continue guiding us. But the call to invitation in Isha is that you wish to live for 100 years. Please live in this very body here and do not go away. Continue to be here because you have achieved realization, but you please, live for others. And through your transformation, by taking this body to its next level of evolution, which was Hiranmayana Patrena, which was hidden, that truth was hidden. That is why in the Vedas, there is a concept of three rochanas. It is that overmental consciousness, Krishna's consciousness, and they had only access till there. So it is like, I was telling Sneha yesterday that if I want to, so there are two ways I can go from Leh to Jammu, right? I can fly. It is easy and it takes me to Jammu. But if I have to transform villages along the way, then my flight does not help me. I can have an overview of the problems. And I have decided not to go through that. I have taken a flight. Okay. And I've been released from it. But if after going to Jammu, if I want to also solve the problems, then I have to take a road journey back, and transform each village there and tell each person there. So that is the yoga of transformation. And that is what Savitri's yoga was when she brought Satyavan back to life. And it is not to be content with this. So without any disrespect for anybody who has attained realization, but it is just to show that was, as per the Isha Upanishad, that is a partial realization of Vidya. You have attained unity and you have gone, but one has to be in this birth, not dissolve one's ego, but one has to be in this birth, but not in the false ego, but true, true self, and continue to do works in the world, kurvanne veha karmani, in the second shloka, because only then you can, enjoy without, attachment, and you can actually do works which are necessary for the world. And these works don't lead to karma, because It is done with from the freedom of desire and its attachment.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Miss Swati, would you like to?
Yeah, hi,
Yeah.
I'm Swati here. I'm an interior designer, and Sneha and Yugma are the source where I got connected to many different things since long, like I was waiting for, and I have uh, been with them since 2 years, and this journey of getting along. Uh, and being with each other is totally different, and I have learned a lot, and I have gone through many phases, and now I'm reaching to the thing where I wanted to be since childhood, but I didn't knew the path, and I tried a lot to study Upanishads and all that, but the way you are teaching and making it understand, I thought like I didn't understand anything like that when I was learning alone. So it is so helpful for the journey. And after so long years, I got a clarity of the confusion I was living in. And coincidentally, I am taking that step in few days and starting the first step of the journey. And it clarified a lot of things in my life, which was so needed. Uh, so that, now I really feel that. Um, I'm on the first step that I have to cure things first inside and then help to the world first. Many clarities are there in Upanishads which I didn't know, and I was living in another world. So even my nana and all are we all were Brahmins, so they also taught us so much about Gita, Upanishads, and all that. The way now you taught and the stage what I am in right now, like it is life changing, and hopefully it will be seen in future also. And it is very beautiful that we are getting connected and we'll get gradual and continuous help from you. Though you're a student, but you're a master of your language,
Mhm.
and the way you explain is like beautiful. Right? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Swati. And yes, I have myself struggled to understand these. And as I said, thanks to all of you because you joined this, that I studied it again, and so many insights I got which I didn't have before. So it is such a beautiful journey, you know, layers and layers and layers of meaning. It's very beautiful. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Swati. Himanshu, would you like to?
Yeah. And thank you for holding this session. I'm Himanshu. I stay in Bangalore. I run my own business, and so from my childhood, I've been reading works of Swami Vivekananda and been associated with Isha. And I've heard people talk about the Upanishads and the Vedas, and but there was no there was no context where people would explain it in such a way. It always felt like it is something which is distant and with someone who has a specialization or someone who has taken up sannyas only has to understand it. So this first class or the sessions on Isha Upanishad, in one ways, because I've been reading the works of Sri Aurobindo a little, I had this idea it is possible, but how exactly is it manifesting out? So that really helped. And my major takeaway from the Isha Upanishads class is this the acceptance that the Brahman is both the Vidya and Avidya, and that the Vidya is surrendered to Vidya, but even the Vidya has to accept Avidya in this
Yeah.
world and continue the works of the divine. So that has been my major takeaway.
Yeah, transcending without rejecting. Transcending multiplicity without rejecting it.
Thank you. Really looking forward to the next Upanishad.
Thank you. Thank you, Imanj. Ramakrishna ji.
Namaste.
Namaste.
And first of all, let me express deep gratitude to the Divine Mother and Master for arranging this talk through you, Geetanjali ji. Very, 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 very insightful and profound. And in fact, I was also struggling a lot actually, though. I mean, I had a lot of inclination to learn about Upanishads, and in the context, I just went to Ramakrishna Math and purchased this book written by, this is translated with notes based on Shankara's commentary written by Swami Lokeshwarananda. But though I was reading this, so I was not in a position to understand it elaborately. So through your wonderful talk, I mean, and I could understand that this Isha is very beautifully reconciling all opposites. So, and in the very first loka itself, as and it is indicated that Isha Vasamidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat. So therefore, I realized that Vasudevam Sarvam Iti. So, I mean, all is nothing but there is a reflection of the Brahman, and the layers and layers of doubts that are inside me now have been and cleared. And my takeaway is that I should also now, by participating in this multiplicity, and should help the mankind to uplift the consciousness, and then only there is a joy of a collaboration. And I definitely I should pour ghee of my purified will for Loka Sangraha. So that's my takeaway through this. And once again, deep gratitude, Geetanjali ji. Thank you so much.
Yes, and the reason Hinduism has been kept alive even after 10,000 years, one of the oldest philosophies, living philosophies, is because there were constantly rejuvenations through the efforts of Shankara, Mahavir, Tirthankaras, Buddha, and therefore that those truths that were lost were always reclaimed, as was suited for that time and age. So these were the great contributions, and I feel so Sri Aurobindo reclaiming it again for this day and age is, I feel, another very beautiful thing. And when you read Shankara's interpretations and Sri Aurobindo's, there might be a change, a different interpretation, because the same Sanskrit word lends itself to many meanings. And that is why these are called Sanatana, these texts, because those meanings are such that depending on the time and age you are, you can derive meaning out of it. So it is not what Shankara said is wrong or what Sri Aurobindo said is right, but that was suited for that time and age. And these texts, and today is for this time and age. And I think you beautifully summarized it. Yeah, if we all can live for Loka Sangraha, and that was the beautiful allegory of the cave by Plato. That when we go out in the search of truth, we are philosophers. When we go out of the cave, but after finding the truth, when we come in to tell others, then we are the politicians. He used the word politician in a very positive way. And those were our Raja Rishis, the Raja Rishis were kings who had philosophically understood the philosophy, but they didn't keep it to themselves, but they came to make the world better for others. So, yes. We all can be Raja Rishis and philosopher kings.
And through course of this journey, I've also realized, and Savitri says, a prayer, a master act, the king idea can link man's strength to a transcendent force. So everything is there in this now. There is master act is there, a prayer is there in this Upanishads, and the king idea. So definitely through this kind of journey, and we all can, link our strength to that transcendental force.
And the beauty of doing all the 10 together is why we thought we'll do it is in the Kathopanishad, when you understand Nachiketa's fire better, then you can understand the Agni of the Upanishads better. Because the experiences the rishis had were the same, just that the language used was different. But somehow the symbolism remains the same. It was always in the inner experience. It came as Agni to all the rishis. So that is why these outer. So I believe that everything which is there outside is a symbol of something which is within. Everything, the microcosm and the macrocosm are one. Yeah. So the Indian way was understanding the macrocosm through the microcosm, the outside through the inside. The way of the science is understanding the outside and then maybe understanding the inside. So thank you very much. We've exceeded our time, but it was nice to know everybody. And
Yeah, thank you, madam.
I have a small request, ma'am.
yes,
Could you please suggest us some books apart from Aurobindo, especially where there are translation of these Sanskrit words, so that we understand each of these words and understand the meaning of each word, and that would help in better. I mean, is there anything that you could suggest?
okay, what I can share are my notes, because I have gone to different sources. So to understand Upanishads, I studied Panini's grammar, and I learned Sanskrit because I didn't want to learn it through somebody's translations. But so I spent a year, 7 months to study Panini's grammar, and I have made notes of these. So I could do that, like shloka by shloka, I can do. The grammar of it, like Patrena is the third instrumentation, third vibhakti. You want that way, no? Third
Yes,
vibhakti.
yes, ma'am. That would be very kind of you.
So thanks, and it will be a motivation for me to put that on properly.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, ma'am.
You share in the group now, ma'am.
yes, we'll share it. It will
Thank
take me some time, but I will start doing it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Okay,
Have a nice
Thank you
day.
so much.
Till we meet
Thank you.
again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.